Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about something that completely changed my life. It's a simple, little word, but it holds a universe of meaning for me. That word is Hygge, and I found it, of all places, right here in this tiny home. For years my life was a constant rush. It was all about more hours at the office, more space in a big apartment, more stuff to fill that space. I lived in a bustling city. The sound of traffic was my alarm clock, and the constant hum of a stressed population was the soundtrack to my life. I had a great job, a beautiful place, and all the things society tells you that you should have to be happy, but I was miserable. Deeply, fundamentally stressed. My apartment felt like a storage unit for a life I was too busy to live. I'd come home exhausted, just to be faced with all the clutter and the sheer size of the space, which somehow made me feel even more alone. One night, I was scrolling through my phone, feeling completely burned out, when I stumbled upon a documentary about tiny homes. At first I laughed. It looked so impractical. But then I saw the faces of the people living in them. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving. They looked so calm, so present, so at peace. It was an emotion I hadn't felt in a very long time. That image planted a seed in my mind. What if I didn't need more? What if I needed less? What if my stress wasn't just my job, but my entire environment? The idea of a tiny home went from a joke to a serious plan. I spent months researching, planning, and getting my finances in order. My friends and family thought I was crazy. "You're going to give up everything for that?" they'd say, gesturing to a picture on my screen. I just smiled, because for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of hope. The first few weeks here were rough. I'm not going to lie. I'd spent my entire life with a certain amount of space, and suddenly every inch mattered. I kept bumping into things. I couldn't find a place for my favorite old armchair. I had to let go of so many things that I thought were a part of my identity. The decluttering process was emotionally grueling. I had to confront all the impulse purchases, all the gifts I never used, all the things that held me to a past I was trying to escape. It was a constant negotiation with myself. Do I really need this? The answer, more often than not, was no. The feeling of being cramped was very real at the beginning. It took a lot of mental energy to adjust to a new way of living. I would sometimes stand outside just to feel the vastness of the world before coming back inside to my little box. And then something shifted. It happened on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was bundled up in a blanket, with a mug of hot tea in my hands. The rain was tapping softly on the roof. I had a book open, and the light from a single candle was casting a warm glow over the page. The space felt so incredibly small, but for the first time, it didn't feel constricting. It felt safe. It felt cozy. It felt like a warm hug. I realized that what I was feeling had a name. It's a Danish word, Hygge. Pronounced Hygge. It's not just about blankets and candles, though those are part of it. Hygge is a state of mind. It's about being present and finding joy in the simple moments of life. It's about creating a feeling of coziness and contentment. And it was then that I realized Hygge is the natural state of a tiny home. You are forced to be intentional with every single thing you own. There's no room for clutter or things that don't bring you joy. Everything in this space has a purpose, and that creates a profound sense of peace. My living room is also my kitchen, my office, and my sanctuary. Because the space is so small, I'm forced to slow down and appreciate each moment. The sound of the coffee maker is amplified. The scent of a baking cookie fills the entire home instantly. The crackle of a single log in my tiny wood stove is the perfect background noise. It's a life lived in full sensory focus. I don't need a lot of things to feel content. I just need a soft blanket, a good book, and the company of my thoughts. The contrast to my old life is staggering. I used to be so anxious about the future, about all the bills, about all the things I needed to acquire. Now, my life feels so much simpler. My focus has shifted from what I want to what I have, from what I need to what I am grateful for. My tiny home didn't just shrink my living space. It expanded my mind. It taught me that happiness isn't about grand gestures or big possessions. It's about a quiet morning. It's about a warm cup of tea. It's about the feeling of being safe and sheltered from the world. It's about finding contentment in the small moments and realizing that those small moments are what make up a beautiful life. I want to be clear, this isn't an ad for tiny homes. This is a story about finding a new way to live. You don't need to sell all your things and move into a tiny house to find your own version of Hygge. You can find it anywhere. Maybe it's a cozy corner in your bedroom. Maybe it's a quiet half hour with a podcast. Maybe it's just the act of sitting down and being fully present with yourself with no distractions. My tiny home was the catalyst for my change, but the feeling of Hygge, of being truly at peace, is something that everyone deserves to experience. For years, my life was a relentless pursuit of more. More money, more possessions, a bigger house, a better job title. My entire existence was a to-do list, a series of goals to be conquered. I lived in a big, beautiful house that always felt empty. I had a closet full of clothes I never wore, and a garage full of things I barely used. The constant pressure to achieve and acquire left me feeling drained. I would come home from work exhausted, only to feel the stress of my chaotic, cluttered life all around me. I was living for the future. I'll be happy when ... was my constant refrain. When I get that promotion, when I buy that car, when I take that vacation, happiness was always on the horizon, never in the present moment, and then the burnout hit. It was a physical and mental crash. I remember one evening I was sitting on my couch, surrounded by all my things, and I felt nothing but a profound sense of exhaustion and emptiness. That night, something had to change. I started searching for answers, and that's when I stumbled upon the concept of Hygge. At first, the idea seemed too simple. How could a word about coziness solve my deep-seated stress and anxiety? I started small. I put away my phone an hour before bed. I made a habit of drinking a cup of tea in silence. I lit a single candle just for the glow, not for a special occasion. Each small act was a tiny rebellion against the chaos of my life. It was a quiet declaration that my peace was more important than my productivity. Slowly, those moments of quiet and calm began to accumulate. The stillness started to feel less foreign and more like a welcome friend. I started to appreciate the simple beauty of a rainy afternoon. The way the light shifted in the room as the sun went down. The warmth of a blanket on my lap. I realized that my stress wasn't just a product of my job. It was a product of my mindset. I was so focused on what was next that I was missing what was right in front of me. Hygge taught me to be present. It forced me to stop and notice the small, beautiful details of life that I had been rushing past for years. The most transformative part of this journey was realizing that my physical space had to reflect my mental state. I needed an environment that supported my newfound peace. That's when I decided to downsize. I moved into a tiny home, not to escape my problems, but to create a sanctuary. My tiny home became the physical manifestation of my Hygge practice. Every item in this space has a purpose and brings me joy. There's no room for things that just take up space. The decluttering process was deeply cathartic. It was a release of all the old expectations and the constant need to acquire. Living in a smaller space forces you to be intentional. You can't just buy things on a whim. Every decision about what comes into this home is a conscious one. And that's the real secret. Hygge isn't about having less. It's about having only what matters. It's about being deliberate with your time, your energy, and your space. My life now feels so much more grounded. I'm not constantly worried about what's next. I'm just here right now with a sense of peace I never thought was possible. My focus has shifted from grand goals to small moments. A morning cup of coffee with a book is now a cherished ritual, not a rushed necessity. This tiny home is more than a house. It's a living monument to the power of Hygge. It's a daily reminder that happiness is not a destination, but a way of life. I wake up feeling refreshed, not stressed. I go to bed feeling calm, not anxious. This isn't because I have a tiny house. It's because I have a Hygge mindset. But here's the most important part. You don't need to move into a tiny home to find your own version of Hygge. The principles are universal. You can create a Hygge space in a big apartment. You can find Hygge in a quiet park bench. It's about making a choice. The choice to slow down. The choice to be present. The choice to find joy in the simple, everyday moments. It's about creating an atmosphere of comfort and contentment wherever you are. It's about taking a moment for yourself and for the people you love. Hygge is about the quiet satisfaction of a well-lived life, one moment at a time. It's about being human, not a human doing. My life went from stress to serene because I learned that happiness isn't about big, external things. It's about a warm cup of tea, a good book, and the feeling of being truly at home in your own life. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. What does Hygge mean to you? And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for more videos. See you next time.